No spoilers.
In this video, I'll
120 godzin?!
give you my Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree review with a full look into the expansion after having spent nearly every single waking moment of the past 2 weeks with the DLC. Playing over 120 hours
Co ty pierdolisz?
myself and a collective 250 plus hours as a team, we have managed to complete most of the content and unlock
Znowu widzę rzeczy, których nie chcę widzieć.
most of the DLC secrets, although some NPC quest lines will require a replay to fully figure out. Is the DLC worth 40 USD? Was it worth the 2-year wait? What can you expect in terms of content and how does it affect the base game? We have all these answers and more in this Shadow of the Erdtree review. This review will not go into specific story, location, or NPC details, and we'll keep it as spoiler-free as possible, only showcasing the very beginning parts of the DLC, mostly areas already shown in trailers and events, but if you are deathly against spoilers, simply listen to the video or read the article version instead. Of course, it's impossible not to spoil some basic intrinsic mechanics that have already been widely revealed, so we'll assume everyone knows about them. Feel free to skip to gameplay if you want to know nothing of the story and setting. We don't really reveal anything that happens or any names, but perhaps you already know you will like the story. Shadow of the Erdtree is one of the best expansions ever released for a game.
Kto by się spodziewał?
Giving you what would be a game from another studio as an add-on to what is already one of the best games of all time. This review will explain the highs of the DLC, but will also mention its small negatives and my few criticisms to give you the most balanced view possible. I'd like to preface that you should not read too much into these, as I really love the expansion, and it's very much worth it. The world of Elden Ring was wondrous to discover, and the lore of the game has kept a dedicated subset of the fanbase going for...
Pomijam. Chcę gameplay.
Shadow of the Erdtree gameplay follows the base game, but has a somewhat different tempo to what feels like the natural progression you've experienced before in Elden Ring. The most prominent new mechanic, one that was heavily publicized via interviews and previews, is the addition of the Skadu Tree fragments and revered Ashes of War, two types of items that can be found to use to provide blessings for your character that increases your damage done and decreases damage taken when in the realm of shadow. This mechanic was added as a way to balance the DLC to the player and provide new progression for characters that have maxed out weapons, optimized armor, amazing talismans, and high levels. This is a quite smart approach to the power creep issue, as it also prevents the DLC from becoming the source of the most powerful items in the game and ruining everything that came before in the original title. I did find, though, that these fragments replaced the traditional character progression that I really enjoyed from the base game. I completed the DLC with an admittedly very powerful 150 build without ever leveling up once, and the only change I made was to slot an upgraded form of an Ash of War I already had. I picked up lots of new equipment, and it opened up so many new build possibilities, but the way to get stronger wasn't to make a new build or upgrade my weapon, it was to get more fragments. It's a small but insignificant issue, as I felt like it was a bit on rails getting more power from a consumable permabuff rather than thinking about how to
Nie uważasz, że mechanika nasion nie będzie źle zbalansowana przez to, że leży w open worldzie? Jakby cokolwiek w Eldenie było zbalansowane, nie?
Optimize my build. This by no means makes it a bad mechanic, and I think it's a fantastic approach to ensure balancing and the reason they have been able to add so many new weapons and equipment, which ultimately will have a deep impact on everyone who can replay the whole game.
Ale mu kopa jeszcze w locie, widziałeś?
So many new weapons and equipment, which ultimately will have a deep impact on everyone who can replay the whole game with the DLC items. Additionally, everyone will be pleased to hear that the DLC features tough and interesting mobs and bosses, and since fragments are now the great equalizer, combat performance comes down to your base build and skill. This means you'll have to have a decent setup that works for the area, but after that you'll have to use mechanics wisely to approach exploration and fights. If you need help, we have Day 1 DLC builds ready for you at launch, and you can begin now by exploring our extensive library of builds with our new build selection tool. Exploration has to be one of the most appealing aspects of Elden Ring, and the Shadow of the Erdtree map delivers a new level of interconnectivity and verticality that is truly and genuinely impressive.
Nowe runy na kaskę.
Impressive. I also found the new Legacy dungeons to be really well done, and their scale and design is without a doubt some of the best from software.
Czyli mapy będą miały dużo więcej interlokacyjności i wertykalności. Nic tylko się cieszyć. Dark Soulsowicze się ucieszą.
Have ever made. It will be by far everyone's favorite part of the DLC, merging what we all love from Dark Souls into what we have come to love from Elden Ring. I truly cannot emphasize enough how good these dungeons are, and how much I enjoyed exploring their secrets.
Super są dungeony.
As
No
with the
dobra.
base game, there's a decent amount of recycling, and you'll notice base game enemies and mini-bosses going about.
O Jezu, ale takie wąskie
As with the
korytarze, normalnie przebieganie przez jakieś takie zamkowe miejsce, mi się kojarzy od razu z Orlando, tą lokacją przed Ornsteinem i Smogiem zaraz.
base game, there's a decent amount of recycling, and you'll notice
Takie
base
małe
game enemies and
pokoiki.
mini-bosses going about, as well as some copy-pasted landmarks or building pieces. It did not deter my enjoyment, as the whole is more than the sum of its parts, but I felt it was something that I should mention since so many base game enemies and bosses can
Magmowe mimiczki takie.
be found in the DLC. Shadow of the Erdtree will demand your attention and ingenuity to navigate its landscape and find ways to reach new destinations. When compared to the base game, the level intricacy of the map is completely on a different scale. I completely disregarded the review guide and played 100% blind, and it gave me a great sense of achievement to slowly figure out how to do everything
Okej,
and
czyli
unlock
dużo rzeczy jest nieoczywistych. I dobrze, fajnie.
every corner of the map, find hidden walls, resolve NPC quest lines, and reveal new locations, and interact with legendary characters thought lost to time. Unfortunately, I also found a lot of very empty landmass with truly nothing there, which was severely disappointing.
Dużo ludzi na to narzekało po tym preview, że są zbyt pusto. No ale czasami, kurde, w open worldzie muszą być przestrzenie, w których możesz się poczuć chociaż przez sekundę bezpiecznie.
After having been spoiled with so much content in earlier zones and the base game. In some ways, it really felt like Shadow of the Erdtree was not truly ready to launch, as the second half of the map did not feel as fleshed out or as full
Ale widzę, że dużo jest dużo jest przeciwników z podstawki też tutaj wykorzystanych.
content-wise
Jest dużo nowych, ale jest też sporo powtórek.
as the first half, even though it was still light years beyond what other developers typically deliver. Regardless of this, the overall scale and intricacy of the map and dungeons, as well as the many extra locations, provided more than enough content to fill a whole separate game. So let's delve into that. You can expect to find many new marked locations in addition to 3 extremely good legacy dungeons and several smaller but well-designed caves, catacombs, and jails with rewarding content. But most notably, you can expect some really challenging boss encounters. The last boss of the DLC is no doubt the hardest From Software boss I have ever done.
Okej, dobra, czyli ostatni boss DLC to jest najtrudniejszy boss w historii From Software. I nawet nie wiemy kto to i co to. No i dobrze.
And it makes Orphan of Kos and Millennia look laughably easy.
Aż tak?
Game expansion should be judged by more than their new levels and exploration content they
Jest zlikowany cały fight. Ja tego nie będę oglądał i nie chcę nic o tym wiedzieć. Jeżeli ktoś to widział, to może mi tylko powiedzieć, czy faktycznie zapowiada się ciężko.
add, though, and considered with their impact on the game as a whole as well. In this regard, Elden Ring is some of the best expansion content ever made for any game, as it adds to how much you can approach the base game by giving you 8 new weapon categories, plus 95 new weapons, 10 new shields, 39 new talismans, 14 new sorceries, 28 new incantations, 20 new spirit ashes, 25 ashes of war, 30 new armor sets, and new consumables and craftables.
Trochę
This
kontentu
is a
jest,
very
co?
significant content injection that means my 100 plus builds are about to be
Pokaż jeszcze raz. 39 nowych talizmanów to jest mój stary. 30 nowych zbrojek?
This is a very significant content injection that means my 100 plus builds are
Dużo fake leaków też jest i bardzo dobrze. Macie czekać i grać, a nie wiedzieć wszystko wcześniej. Niech was mylą.
about to become 200 plus easily. The weapon categories have interesting mood sets, and when combined with new skills, will diversify gameplay and PvP even further. Many of the new armor pieces have
Ale z***a jest ta zbroja. To ten gość nosił w trailerze.
special effects which make them appealing,
Fajnie to wygląda.
and the new talismans add extras that everyone will want for the base game as well. I won't go into details of these, but if you want information on what all these do and where to find them, head over to the wiki and check out the Shadow of the Erdtree map page, which will be completely filled out at launch. And now we've arrived to the most contentious part of the review, audio visuals and performance. It's no secret that I'm of the unpopular opinion that From Software is due an engine upgrade or graphics
Scale,
overhaul,
replayability,
as I feel their
multiplayer.
incredible art direction and
O, replayability.
an extra game as a DLC, as we outlined with the content list above. But it goes beyond this, as one must consider that all the extra content is now also available to interact and affect the base game. I can't stress this enough. Every single build will find something interesting to add, and those progressing through the game will find new ways to play and enjoy thanks to this DLC. This ramps up the replayability of the base game even further, meaning your last 2 years of playing and enjoying exploration and bosses with different setups
Nowe pomysły na buildy i rany będą. O! Kto by się spodziewał? W końcu IGN dobre oceny robi. Na Metacriticu już są opinie? O 95? Nice.